Hi everybody, I'm Ace. Welcome back to another video. Today we got something special with Dragon Ball Z Sparkling Zero. Honestly, I couldn't decide whether to talk about the good or the bad with this, so I decided why not do both? That way you can see at least both sides of my feelings on this. Because as fun as this game is, there are some things I feel like could tweak it just to be better. But without further ado, here are the 6 best and worst things about Dragon Ball Z Sparkling Zero. So let's begin. One of the best things about this game is its character roster. This game has a lot of characters, about 180 or so. I think that's more than what Tenkaichi 1, 2, or 3 had, and that's great. It gives you the chance to play so many iconic characters across the Dragon Ball verse and allow you just to become reacquainted with some familiar faces and test them out against others. Like, I'm honestly glad 𝐄𝐦𝐚𝐢𝐥 is in this game because it's been a minute since you've been actually able to fight as him, period. Now, whether he's good or not, that's not up for yourself to decide on, but hey, I'm just happy to see he's back. And if the OG characters aren't usually your go-to, you've got new characters in Super's introduction as well as a few of the classic movie characters. Now, is every character in the Dragon Ball verse in this game? No, but I think that's okay because they've more than enough filled this game with a huge amount that you at least have a chance to choose or just play around with any of them. So, if you're worried about how small the roster is, I wouldn't be, because you're going to have a good time trying out every single one of them. One of my complaints that I have about Sparkling Zero is the fact that there's not a narrator, really. A lot of cutscenes, there's no narrator at all, so you're just honestly reading the text, and it just feels so off. Like, I remember the old Tenkaichi games, they would usually have, like, a narrator. For example, Tenkaichi 1, they had, like, a narrator at the beginning of a story arc who would, explain that arc's premise, and then they'd show up at the end to explain the closure of the arc. Or they'd at least have the narrator just explaining the fights before the characters start talking. But the fact that there really isn't one in this game just feels so weird. Like, you'd think that they'd at least have someone narrating the cutscenes in between, because it just feels so silent and off-putting sometimes, which isn't something I'd usually say when it comes to a Dragon Ball game, because they usually have this under control. So why we don't really have one for this game, who knows? Now, I know the old school narrator passed away recently, which may they rest in peace. I just figured they'd at least have some kind of narrator on hand, The next thing I'd like to talk about that I enjoy about this game is the what if stories. This game has done a fantastic job with the what if scenarios, and I can't wait to at least get to try them all. Probably one of my favorite what if scenarios has to be Gohan Black. Now, this is an awesome take on the whole Goku Black arc, and it honestly made me rethink the whole arc as a whole, as it probably would have been a lot cooler if Gohan did get to really participate in this arc, because it would have made his return to actually fighting in prep for the Tournament of Power be a lot more important than it was. But Gohan's not the only one that gets his time to shine. We've got Frieza what if story. We got Vegeta what ifs. Hell, even Jiren has his own what if story, and so on. Now, unlocking some of these what if paths may have been a bit more annoying than I was planning to deal with, but the payoff is so worth it to be able to experience these interesting turns in the story than there ever were in the original. So, my problem with the story is the fact that you're specifically only playing it from these characters' point of view, as opposed to all the characters as a whole, and sometimes you don't even get to experience that whole arc of that character's fights that they've had across the franchise. For example, let's go with Gohan. For example, Gohan's story, he's been around since the very beginning. You know that, right? But not every fight that Gohan has participated in is for him to play. For example, Gohan's story starts off at the Cell Saga with his training with Goku, which means there's no him helping fight Nappa, there's no him fighting Frieza. It just kind of skips ahead past that, which seems kind of weird. And then same with the Tournament of Power. He doesn't get to fight Dispo, but Frieza does. Again, a weird choice, because why not? And it's the same with a few other characters. Like Vegeta. Like, Vegeta's arc essentially takes place when the Namek arc begins. So it's not like you get to control Vegeta fighting Goku. Like, no, that option is not here. It just takes everything sort of after that. But the weird thing about it is, Vegeta's story arc stops at the end of Dragon Ball Z. So any fights that he had in Super, you don't get to really do with Vegeta either, which doesn't make sense either, because Vegeta has fights in Super. So why did these just essentially get left in the dust? Like, no fight against Jiren, Toppo, Goku Black. None of those. It's these weird decisions of what fights to keep and what not to keep that just make me question kind of what happened here, you know? One of the final things I'd like to talk to you about is the tournaments. Now, I'm sure most of you are used to the World Martial Arts Tournament and the Cell game, but Sparkling Zero has added a few more to the mix. We've got the Otherworld Tournament, we've got Tournament of Destroyers, Tournament of Power, obviously, and probably the funniest one out of the bunch, the Yamcha games. Like, each of these tournaments isn't just like a new arena to fight in. No. Each of these tournaments also have their own set of rules and restrictions to make each one unique compared to the last. For example, with the Yamcha tournament, you don't even get to decide what character you have or what customization you have for that character. It's completely randomized. So you don't even know what kind of character you can get. You can get a good character, or you can get one of the worst. You never know. And that applies to all the tournaments. Hell, you can even create your own tournament for that matter. So, the customization to set up your own sort of battling tournament is all available for you. And that's pretty awesome. I like the idea that they have this full range of customization, so you can make and set your rules however you want them. So if you're ready to gather your own friends to play against, this is the best way to set the rules to be as fun or probably as sadistic as you want them to be. So if you're ready to prove you're the best fighter in the verse, here's your chance. The final thing I'd like to talk to you guys about is connected rivals. Now this is just more for the trophy hunter side of me. Now, in previous Dragon Ball games that I've played, you know, Ultimate Tenkaichi and the Xenoverse stuff, there's usually some multiplayer trophy in there somewhere, and it's usually just been like, okay, play 7 battles or win 7 battles in a row. Aggravating, but still, you can at least try and easily get it with friends, whatever. This game decides to have you participate in 100 battles. Now, mind you, you don't have to win the fight, but at the very least, you need to participate in the match till its completion. So, if your opponent decides to quit the battle, like just DC, then that doesn't count. You have to finish the fight. This is honestly just a real time-consuming type of battle, and I don't care for it. Because I'm just more of an online sort of player, so the idea of having to play through so many online battles really just drains me. Now, sure, at the very least, I'm getting closer to finishing it, you know, with like 10 battles a day, but at the same time, I can only sit through so much online battles before I just get aggravated. Especially because, like I said, I'm not good at online battling. I'm not gonna lie, I suck. So, having to sit through just getting my ass kicked, or trying to fight back and just getting curb stops, it gets old really quickly. Now again, why not boost the trophy? Well, that also requires a friend to want to sit through 100 battles. Most people aren't going to want to do that. So this is probably the least favorite trophy I'm having to work towards.